and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where four friends have chill discussions about Sonic the Hedgehog to distract themselves from the inevitable passage of time and their rapidly shattering universe, or something like that. I am GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro.
I'm RockTheJake.
And I'm CyberLink.
And we are talking about Sonic Prime again. This is it's season 1, part 2, but it's season 2. God, I hate Netflix. They're a bad company.
It's called season 2 on the Netflix page, but I refuse to accept it as that because this is clearly the second part of just the big batch of episodes that they commissioned. But whatever.
Yes. It's the second release of the 24 episodes that they created and have probably been done for over a year now, and there probably won't be any more after this, and yada, yada, yada. Like, God willing, and the creek don't rise, that the writers and actor strike will be over, and they will get everything they asked for, but part of this crap is part of it, I'm sure, where they take this and split it up and blah. Lucky for us, this is a Canadian show through and through and is not a struck work, so we are happy to talk about it. But, I can only speak for myself, but yeah, solidarity to those workers out there. Anyway.
Same here.
Hey, if you got what you wanted by the time this episode comes out, hooray! If not, well, that's just what we expected.
If not, grab your and go. So, this is another batch of 8 episodes of Sonic Prime. They pick up literally exactly where the other ones left off. If you'll remember correctly from our last episode, we got to end with Shadow flying at Mach speed straight into Sonic's stupid face.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny that after season 1 came out and seemed to do pretty good. I mean, it had pretty good word of mouth, and Netflix did their thing where they're like, and this is the most watched children's cartoon ever in the history of mankind. And we're like, okay, sure. And then Sega and Netflix teased on social media just like a single screen grab of Sonic and Shadow fighting in January. And then this batch of episodes would not premiere until July 13th. So, y'all think that last batch is coming out this year?
Probably not. Like, if the gap is similar to last time, then I think we'll get it like at the start of next year. Netflix seems to like to have gaps of like 6 to 7 months between quote unquote seasons so that they can, stretch it out as long as it'll go.
Christmas or after New Year's at the earliest. Yeah, I think you're right. Man, I guess we just jump right in, huh? We're kind of going to go through the episodes again, not in a lot of detail, basically just sharing our feelings, and I think at the end we're just kind of reevaluate like our thoughts on the show as a whole from last time and see what's changed, what stayed the same, what's gotten more irritating as the show goes on. Season 2, episode 1. I'm going to relent and just refer to them with Netflix's nomenclature. But season 2, episode 1, Avoid the Void. We got to see early.
Yeah, that came out like a week early.
Yeah, was it like a week or 10 days early on the official YouTube, which was pretty cool because this episode got me really excited for this one because it's a very cool. Is it fair to call this a bottle episode? Maybe half a bottle episode?
It's a very big bottle.
Yes. Yeah, it's a bottle that covers more than just one space, I suppose, but it is just 2 characters, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes. This is Sonic and Shadow picks up directly after their initial confrontation. And also we get we have it revealed that Shadow has been trapped in this void, like between the different universes of the Shatterverse. And he has basically been able to see all of Sonic's wacky adventures in this place, but can't directly interact with them. When Sonic like starts kicking up his prism energy and breaks through the barriers to different universes, that's when he was able to, do his Sonic, keep running. Also, you f***ed up so incredibly bad.
Yeah.
So Shadow basically gets to lay this all out for Sonic, that when he broke the prism, it was like the worst possible thing that could happen. And also he's been doing everything wrong. And Shadow is basically just saying like, would you please sit your ass down and let me fix it, because I am so much better than you.
So Shadow, like, lost in this void, helpless to do anything as Sonic makes an absolute fool of himself, is like a Sonic fan in this day and age. Saying, damn it, I can do it better, Sega.
I'm the grown-up in the room.
I really do have to say, like, out of the gate, like, Devin and Ian playing Sonic and Shadow, like, if I remember correctly, I think Devin mentioned on social media that they actually got to sit in and record this episode together.
Oh, cool.
Like, they got to play off each other. And it really shows, because this is like, man, this took me back to like Sonic Adventure 2, like Sonic Heroes, like... I really, really love Ian as Shadow in these episodes, because he is obviously still, all of these actors, like, very obviously, and again, I'm not making a moral judgment, it's just, I'm sure what they were asked to do, are imitating the current English game cast. Like, we went over that. Yeah. They're all really solid performances, regardless of, like, their impressions, but I mean, Ian is really
Ian
up there.
Hanlon's a bit different from, like, what Kirk Thornton is doing right now, though. He's not beholden to the Jason Griffith established, gravelly Batman voice. He's actually doing more of something in the vein of a David Humphrey back in the day, where Shadow was allowed to be the theatre kid, as you would call him.
Yes.
Jeremy. Because he's very serious, but there's also that, there's a little flamboyance to him sometimes, which I appreciate.
He's got a very good smooth, like, lower register to his voice, and so he can kind of, of course he's serious 99% of the time, but like those little sparks here and there where he gets to be a little bit sassy or a little bit suave, like it's really nice to see that.
Yeah, basically took the words right out of my mouth. Like, I really love it, and I think he has jumped up to like one of my favorite Shadow performances. Even though, not to jump too far ahead, I kind of wish he was in here more. Like, I never thought being a casual Shadow liker, I never thought I would catch myself saying like, "Where's Shadow? There should be more Shadow."
If he's on screen, there should be more.
Yeah.
Well, what we end up here with, like, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but this is an episode of a Sonic show, because it's two characters from the games for once, without any caveats around them. Yeah, they're talking about the main storyline, but you're getting Sonic and Shadow doing Sonic and Shadow things.
Mostly fighting.
So, yeah. That's why when Shadow's gone, I'm like, oh, it's going to go back to being that other show, which is fine. But I do, getting all this Shadow's really nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that this is such a Shadow-heavy episode, and it, like, with the current trend of how the seasons, quote unquote, and the episodes are going, it seems like Shadow gets like an episode or two where he gets more than 2 lines, and then he kind of gets put on the back burner for a little while, but. I do want to draw attention to, we mentioned it last time we talked about season 1, but the fighting choreography, not just in this episode, but throughout the rest of the season is, of course, still really good. And Man of Action is doing a fantastic job at taking like the standard action scenes and then putting a little extra oomph in them to make them very visually appealing.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenes in this episode in particular where Sonic and Shadow have like quick little scuffles, and like you almost need to slow down. Like I think it's near the end where Sonic tackles Shadow from the front, and they not only like kind of roll up into like a funny little spin ball. It almost looks like the whatchamacallit, the Sonic and Tails team up roll move from Sonic 4 episode 2, but it moves so fast and there's lots of squash and stretch, and I realized, like, man, I'm kind of not used to Sonic character animation being this good, because while the games have really nice pre-rendered cutscenes, like the in-game animations they've never really stood out. Like even in Frontiers, which is a game we have lots of nice things to say, there is just a lot of like characters walking around back and forth talking to each other and not really gesticulating.
Without any, like, really, they have some expressions in Frontiers, which I was appreciative of, but not to the level of this. You know, everyone's really expressive in this show. That's one of the great things about it, and, you know, I appreciate that in my Sonic.
It's not a 3D version of Go Animate.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's very, very nice to see these, if I remember correctly, these are very much like the models are built to be like the current ones used in the games. And it's just nice to see those models.
They're built from them, aren't they? Like Sega, like, I think we mentioned it in the last episode, but Sega had like given them the models to work with, and they're essentially built from those.
And you can tell because there are some funny like quirks that you see in a lot of even Sega's official renders, like the character's shoulders break sometimes, if that makes sense. But anyway, yes, like it's just nice to see these game models be so expressive. The other thing that kind of, oh man, I know I've seen other people say this, and I know we've talked about that, but in the discussion on what to do with Shadow the Hedgehog now as a character in modern Sonic continuity, whether it's games or comics or whatever, including this episode really cemented like what the key is to me. Like, Shadow is a hard character to write for because he needs specific reasons to hang out with the rest of the characters. And I'm not getting into the unfortunate discourse of, like, you know, Sega saying like, oh, Shadow doesn't have friends, he doesn't hang out with Rouge and Omega, Team Dark isn't a thing. Like, well, that's dumb. But the fact that this conflict, this universe-shattering conflict, has pit Sonic and Shadow together just reminds me of, like I said, their conflict that they come up against in Sonic Adventure 2, and even some in Heroes, to where Sonic and Shadow both know each other. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And Shadow especially, like, he knows Sonic. He thinks Sonic is a doofus. He thinks he's immature. At the end of the day, though, he does have to accept that Sonic always has that chaos factor that will almost always put him out on top over Shadow. Like,
I mean, that is Sonic Adventure 2. Like,
yeah,
Shadow was outclassing Sonic in that game for a lot of the time, but Sonic was always catching up and like getting the better of him after a while. Not because he's like skilled or really good, but because he's Sonic. He has the Sonic power. There's something about Sonic that just naturally occurs in him that makes him able to do ludicrous stuff there and like work out how to use chaos control without knowing it. Like, and it befuddles Shadow. Like, even now, Shadow has to catch up with the fact, oh yeah, this fucking guy, this stupid child is somehow able to do all this, and I can't for some reason. This sucks, but fine, whatever.
I just really like their conflict in this episode and episodes later in the season, to where they both have really good points. The big one that gets Sonic mad is Shadow is rightly saying, like, we need to put our home back together. Like, he's not really saying it, but I think it's implied, because maybe they don't want to get too granular with like the multiverse language, but like, he wants to fix the main universe because that's the real one, quote unquote. Whereas Sonic is like, no, I've met new friends, like my new friend Nine, who is a Tails, but he's his own Tails. Don't you get that, Shadow? And Shadow's like, no, I don't, and I don't care.
I think that the debate of the personhood of the, you know, alternate versions that have spawned from this Shatterverse is going to be like kind of a big component of where the show goes going forward, especially given what happens at the end of this season.
I mean, during the season, you certainly see signs of that, so It's something, but you know what what it comes down to is Shadow's really sick of all of Sonic's stupid friend characters, and he wants to get back to how things used to be.
Yep. And I think that conflict, like I said, Sonic Adventure 2, I'm realizing like framing it in this way, the Shadow in the Metal Virus arc of IDW kind of falls under this, to where that is another one where Sonic objectively like up. Like he did not know how to fix it. Everyone is telling him like different things they should try, and he's pushing back. And that's another one where Shadow is like, look, I'm going to mop up your mess, Sonic, watch. And Sonic's like, wait, no, you don't get it. And Shadow's kind of undone by his hubris there. And yeah, the one here is Shadow is ultimately going to take the tech or the gear that 9 gave him to allow him to harness his prism power and jump between universes. And he does, but it doesn't work because, that's Sonic. He's just the main character.
That's it. That's all it is. There's a lot to actually discuss, like, even before that point. Like, the most of this episode is set on a place that they would later call Ghost Hill, which is like a desaturated version of Green Hill. It's like the prototype version of Green Hill. Kind of reminds me of Green Hill, like, not quite the same, but like in Sonic Generations before it gets the color back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
So that's kind of interesting. And of course, it has like his friends are there, kind of, but they're just
faint echoes, basically.
Faint echoes, basically like they just spew the same things over and over again. So kind of like what the Sonic cast was in the games for a long time. But it's really quite unsettling. You get to hear certain phrases a lot, so it's sort of like gives Sonic a scale up. Like, look, these are your friends. You can get them back if you just get your shit together. But he's Sonic, so
yeah, he wants to be able to save everybody. And all that is really good. And then in the last 5 minutes of the episode, the Chaos Council shows up. And
then, like Chris said, we're back to that show.
It put a little bit of a damper on everything because throughout, Shadow has been trying to travel to the other universes to gather the prism shards so he can bring them back to Ghost Hill and reassemble it and hopefully restore their world at the very least. But of course, we know the Chaos Council, through stealing and kidnapping 9, have harnessed his universe traveling capabilities. Remember, 9 went to the Grim, which was the like formless proto world that he wants to shape as like the home he never had. And so they show up in the void to start traveling to worlds to collect the shards for themselves. And it made me realize a couple of things. That I still don't like the Chaos Council. No. I don't understand who they are in the story. I don't understand why they are from a Sonic story like perspective. Like I think I said it before, I would rather just have 5 different Eggmen. Like I would rather have something happened in the Prism Blast, and because Eggman was so close to it, like all of his all of his alternate universe selves ended up in New York City before Sonic showed up, and that's when they took that over and split everything up. I would much rather have, Caveman Eggman than some of these jokers, because they just continue to not be very pleasant.
They never justify them. Like, I hate to get into the negative stuff right away, but you brought up the Chaos Council, and now I have to be upset because they're there. We've had, like, at this point, like, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but 16 episodes in, and we don't know who the fuck these jokers are. There's an Eggman, a Mr. Dr. Eggman, which I still don't get the joke behind.
Yeah.
And then we've elaborated vaguely on what the other ones are, but who are they? Are they Eggmen from different ages? We talked about this last time. I didn't expect that we'd have to like go over it again and be like, but who are they though?
The thing that really gets my goat is that I think it's the 6th or 7th episode literally opens with a flashback to where they were taking over New York and decided to split it up into 5 little fiefdoms so they could each have one. And I'm like, we knew that already. Like, we figured it out. Like, in the first season, I'm pretty sure...
Give us a flashback to make sense of them, please.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure in the first season they talk about, like, oh, Mr. Dunnett, the rebels are, getting pretty testy in your district. And I'm like, we knew that already. Why would you flash back just to... I want to know who they are. Are they clones? Are they robots? Are they, like you said, are they Eggman from different time periods? Oh man. And yeah, they're like, half of them just aren't funny to me anymore. Yeah. And the other thing with them arriving that made me realize is we are probably not getting any other like fun alternate universes. We are not going to get Maria Robotnik on Cowboy Planet losing a duel at high noon with somebody.
Our last episode, we were so sure that they were going to just run the gamut of like tropes, and we were like, oh, what they're going to do? They're going to do a cowboy one. They're going to do an anime one. But now we're not getting them. I'm like, oh, actually, I kind of would have liked that now, because it'd be better than... It would be kind of funny, actually. Maybe I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, nah, screw it. Give us more play sets.
I don't mind that, except for it made me realize that Rouge as a character and Big probably aren't going to get their like character moments like Tails and the Tailses, the Amy's, and the Knuckleses have, and that's a little disappointing because
I mean Rouge, I can understand maybe not wanting to do a big one unless they did like Mr. Big the Genius. You know?
Yeah. Or hey, Mr. Big, make him like I don't know, would they do like a Italian mafia planet run by a Mr. Big?
Some Star Trek fan would probably take issue with that. See, I am as someone who has finally finished watching like original Star Trek. I think I said this in our last discussion. Like, go Star Trek with it. Do Mafia Planet. Do Ancient Rome Planet. Just, oh man.
Oh, you should do Ancient Rome. I've been reading Asterix lately. That would be really good.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go back to the flashback of how New York City was created real quick, because we talked a little bit about that. I was rewatching that, and I noticed, as much as we hate the freaking baby,
hate that baby.
Hate him.
How can one baby be so hateable?
Yeah, Sonic. But I did notice, while the other four were fighting over what to do and all that, unfortunately, Dr. Babbles, Baby Botnik, was actually the one who came up with the idea to split New York City into 5 sectors for them. And so that got my stupid mind spiraling into, what if Dr. Babbles is the one who's really in charge, and what if he's the final boss of the entire series?
Well, they certainly gave us an antagonist that we can
throw him into the
void. What if it's like a What if it's like a Obito thing from Naruto, where like he's got this voice the whole time, and then like near the end he's just like, "But hello, Sonic."
Now, see, I could almost say that was plausible, except for the fact that about halfway through this, all of the council are too stupid to realize that 9 is like hacking their stuff and is undercutting them at every turn, stealing their tech, except Mr. Dr. Eggman, who all of a sudden puts on his big boy britches and starts acting like the real Eggman, and like takes 9 into the other room and basically like intimidates and threatens to torture him again. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I wanted, man. I wanted Eggman versus my favorite heroes. Yeah. And the other ones just they're goofy. They're too goofy. I don't know if compared to the first season it feels like more, maybe because we got breaks from them in the first season as Sonic was going to the different worlds, and now they are like the main antagonists and are jumping between worlds. But yeah, I guess we might as well like jump into the next episode, which is revisiting.
You know what? Before we do that, we've had our little section where we bitch about the Chaos Council, and it's going to happen again. I just want to take a brief moment to acknowledge a couple of things about episode 1, just to get them out of the way, because I've got these notes down here. Number 1, The internet went nuts over Shadow in this episode because he is a very sassy little boy. There's that shot of him with that little bit of the 9 gear in his mouth that the internet was like really happy about. And yeah, Sonadow fans, however you want to say it, were
that Sonadow's carrying a car.
There it is again. They're having a good time.
I always thought it was supposed to be Sonadow.
Whatever it is. They were happy for once. The other thing to note is, and this kind of leads us into the next episode, Sonic's way of getting to open a portal now is to go fast. And while, yeah, gotta go fast and all that, and he's gonna say it a few times, he's gonna keep saying it, but it does make me think a little bit of Sonic CD, because, at various times, he's having to, maintain his momentum and keep, his speed going. I'm like, oh, that's just like me recently playing Sonic Origins again. So,
yeah. Yeah, you're not even wrong. He even frequently uses the figure 8 to get up to top speed.
Yeah.
There you go.
The super peel out.
I can't believe I had thought about that.
It's just like a modern Sonic. It's like a casual Sonic fan trying to play. Man, I'm just trying to go fast. Why are you punishing me for going fast?
Oh, I do want to mention it's a really good scene. And again, I know Ian Flynn and also our other head of Sonic lore continuity history buffs are were consulted for this episode, but I don't know if the writers did a lot of references to the games on purpose. I know the animators did. There's been several videos with animators talking about there is a Shadow strikes a pose that is specifically that Shadow render from Shadow the Hedgehog, but instead of he's holding Sonic's tech instead of a 45 millimeter. But the scene where Shadow gets knocked the fuck out and is floating into the void and Sonic saves him is very oh my god, Sonic's not gonna let it happen again. He couldn't save him when they were saving the Earth from the Ark. But I like that moment. I don't want to dig too deep into it. I want to give the writers credit where it's due, but it was a very nice moment that fits perfectly in with Sonic lore as a whole.
Yeah. I just think there's definitely going to be a case. We saw at least one case of basically the animators taking things into their own hands to put a little Sonic twist on things. There's this whole bit where there's an animator whose main on Smash is Sonic. Surprisingly, they worked in a few of Sonic's normals and specials, I believe, into some of the animation.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I tried to keep an eye out for him. There's some in the second episode too, which is Battle in the Boscage. We are going back to the jungle,
which is also on Netflix's YouTube right now.
Oh, good for them. Huh, I did not realize that. So, after a really solid, episode 1 with Sonic and Shadow, they send Dr. Babble and Dr. Don't, which, if you don't remember, is the egg baby Botnik. I like that name, Jake. That's nice. And Dr. Don't, who is what is he supposed to be, a Gen Z video game programmer guy?
He is the writers, basically, their vessel for these damn kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In any generation.
Yeah, it seems like a couple of those aspects of these characters are shining very much out, are coming to the surface even harder because Dr. Deep, I thought in the first season, the joke was that he was kind of like a nerdy weeb, but then all of his jokes in this are more like he's like a new age hippie because he's doing lots of like yoga, and Dr. Dunnett is always like yelling at him, his new age crap. And then Dr. Dunnett is like, man, he's just a cranky old man. Like, damn, I know who he and what he voted for. But yeah, anyway. Yeah. So the council sends these two goobers to Boscage Mage to get the shard. this is where the line Sonic encounters them and literally says out loud, "How can one baby be so hateable? You tell me, Sonic. Holy shit." We get a cool Sonic is fighting Dr. Babble's big mech, and he slow motion slides under his big fist, and I'm pretty sure it's almost a 1-to-1 recreation of that one bit in the Sonic Unleashed opening cutscene, and it's super cool.
Yeah.
I like when Sonic does Sonic things.
I also like when Sonic does Sonic things.
It's enjoyable.
All of the cave people, I can't remember if their group had a name. I'm just going to say cave people because Unga Bunga.
Basically.
Thorn and Birdie and Sonic and, all the other cave people are trying to defend the jungle. Thorn Rose is very adamant on not giving up the shard because she thinks it's the only thing that can protect the jungle and make it better. And she's kind of not wrong, like, especially now that everyone realizes like how powerful it is. And they've retained their lesson from their first encounter with Sonic. But I really like this is where 9 reveals like he's going to be hacking the entire time. And I love that he's I just wrote it down like, I love that he's a sassy little bitch. The other egg guys still at the place are like, yeah, what are you doing over there? It's like, oh, I'm doing exactly what you asked for me, you dumb egghead. And it's
okay. Can we acknowledge the egghead thing? That's a bit weird to me. That egghead is being thrown around as an insult to describe them as being stupid. Because in my country, being an egghead was an insult for the fact that you were really smart.
Same here.
Okay. That was not just a cultural thing for me. I was like, oh, that egghead with his science and all that. But I guess in this case, he's saying, what, this egghead with his dumb brain. Okay.
I guess maybe he means it ironically, like, oh yeah, maybe. You guys are so smart, but you don't see me. They're so arrogant and haughty that they don't realize that 1, 9 is smarter than all of them, and 2, that he is like, they trusted because like they intimidated him that he wouldn't like try and work against them. I guess he's being ironic. I wonder if they also just didn't throw in like, hey, we get it, they're Eggmen, get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big egg.
Every time.
There's a little back and forth between Sonic and Thorn with the other people. What is it? Prim Rouge, especially. She's kind of just like, look, we're all friends again. We kind of just want to live our lives. Like, can you not just give these people the prism and then they'll leave us alone, and not realizing how important it is. But they eventually do team up and try and keep the shard away from the guys. I like in this chase, for the prism, a tree just falls on Prim Rouge, and I'm like, okay, I guess she died. This enormous tree falls right on her, but she gets better.
She got better.
I can't remember. Does Sonic does not end up with the shard? The egg guys get it. Like that happens in a couple episodes, right?
Yeah.
But like the whole thing is that the shard has been on Birdie this whole time, which, from a distance you're like, oh, like in Sonic Adventure when Birdie had the Chaos Emerald. Yeah. But then you find out where the Birdie's been keeping that shard. And that's disgusting. Funny. I love it.
Birdie.
Sonic actually figures it out like pretty early and then reveals it, and he's like, okay, where's Birdie got it? Under her wing and her feathers, and then she just hawks it up from her whatever you call it, that some birds swallow gravel into their throat sac, and it's appropriately disgusting. But.
It's honestly like, that's gross. Usually I just sort of like materialize things from my body. That's just how it works in my world.
Yeah, doesn't he say like, it's a good thing I'm wearing gloves all the time anyway.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good line. That explains it. That was a pretty good line. I also like in the the bad guys get the shard, but Sonic gets launched up to the portal by Birdie and Thorn. It's really cool. They give a couple of really nice alley-oops, fastball special, etc., etc. Yep. And then he ends back up in the no place. The pirate world.
The soggy hellscape, as it gets referred to at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good. I'm glad someone else pointed that out. That's the one kind of swear in this whole show.
Yeah,
We really are getting Shadow the Hedgehog in here.
No, Shadow's had a bad influence on everyone the moment he showed up.
Oh, I did want to point out a funny thing is in the credits, I noticed one of the storyboard revisionists is listed as Miles Tails Worth.
Oh, nice.
I thought that was very cute. I was like, oh, it's neat. They're having fun. They're having fun with it. So this is Dr. Dunnett and Dr. Deep are going after the shard in the No Place. When this episode opened, it almost opens exactly where we left off, where Knuckles the Dread got his beauty, his unobtainable treasure. He's finally obtained it. And I thought, oh, he got it. And he didn't immediately lose his mind. And then about 90 seconds goes by and realized, oh, no, he's still crazy.
Just a slight delayed reaction.
Well, that's the thing. They have been slowly setting up that, because he was a coward before, I think we kind of forget. Like, ever since the last time he tried going to the Devil's Lighthouse, he was like, oh, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to be sitting here and eating weird
sea dogs.
Sea dogs, right. And, but then, like, as he went to get it, in the last season, you could see him getting his mojo back and he was becoming a little bit obsessive. And now you're seeing the culmination of that here, where he's just like, everyone else can get fucked. He wants his thing.
Yeah.
And they team up to fight back the doctors who are trying to go after the ship. Get some really cool moments where in the last season they captured Rusty Rose, and she was very adamant that I will never betray the council. If you let me free, I'll destroy you. And then once she realizes that the council is abandoning her, it literally breaks her robot brain, and she says, "You know what? Forget it. I'm a good guy and I want revenge against them. I'll show them who is useless." And I thought that was cool. Like she immediately strikes up a friendship with her pirate counterpart Amy.
Friendship / sibling rivalry. Actually, I thought it was like
it's really cute.
Something like that.
Yeah, when you're remembering that also the same actor is playing all these different versions of the character, bar one line from Poor Knuckles, that it works surprisingly well.
I think that's one of the good things, if I can say that, about the fact that we're not getting our cowboy world and our anime world and all that, is that because we have these worlds established now, the writers can let these characters grow and grow more, and hopefully we get some more characters and some more hidden little things out of them, like this kind of friendship / sibling rivalry. And we'll get to it more as we keep going through these episodes, but I would like to say off the bat that throughout the season I really enjoyed when doubles met. So when Amy and when Knuckles, especially when Knuckles and Knuckles met, it was just fun every time, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing. You were saying, we bemoan the lack of cowboy world, which is the thing I wasn't expecting to say this season. But in actuality, because I guess they don't have the budget or plans to do any of these other worlds, now it's not them going, haha, what if we do cowboy world? Haha, what if we do space world or whatever? Now they get to have actual characters with consequences and character arcs and things interweaving with one another. So it doesn't feel like... And because they're meeting each other now, and it's it's actually becoming a whole cast. Yeah, they're basically the same character, but in a different guise and a different voice or whatever. But yeah, it's becoming its own little world now, and that's kind of cool.
I think that's also why the Chaos Council feels more flat in this batch of episodes, because all the other characters, we are revisiting them, they're getting to meet other counterparts, they're learning and growing. Even at the end of this one, we realize, oh no, Knuckles the Dread has not only completely lost his mind, but is also betraying his crew again by lying to them after Sonic runs off to recover the shard and saying that blue scallywag abandoned us in the middle of the fight, and
that bastard has been gone for 5 minutes. He's betrayed us.
Megatron has fallen. I, Dread, claim leadership of the Decepticons.
It's actually... I have to say, like, I really like that. I enjoyed Knuckles the Dread, even if I'm just like, well, it's just a pirate version of Knuckles, isn't it? But in actuality, this is kind of like a flip of Knuckles, because, yeah, while Knuckles has always been obsessed with his one MacGuffin, aka the Master Emerald, it's not usually Knuckles who's, like, the traitor, the duplicitous one.
Yeah.
He's usually the one who's getting fooled by people, but he's the one, like, doing all the trickery.
Yeah, that's
here.
true.
It's kind of cool, actually.
Another thing that I don't know if it was intentional, like someone sat down and said, I, the writer, am going to invert, like Knuckles is established character, but it works that way. So it's, I really like it. It's also not like, although I wouldn't be opposed to that. That would be pretty funny. Like if it was a complete personality swap with, say, like Rouge. Like he's not really obsessed with gems like she is, but he is like his beauty, the Prism Shard, was the one that got away. And now that he has it, he absolutely will not give it up, even if he doesn't know why. Like
he's goleming it up right now.
Basically.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of Lord of the Rings, I do love the, it's between Pirate Amy, I forget her name, it's...
Black Rose?
Black Rose.
Yeah, Black Rose. I was like, it's Baton Rouge, it's Sailstill. Yeah, it's Black Rose and Rusty Rose are doing like the Gimli Legolas as they're shooting down all of the Eggman robots, counting.
I think Catfish drops a people's elbow at one point.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep, Big's still here. He's around. It's fine. He's fine. I guess he doesn't need his own episode. I would have liked them to have justified, like, why is Big here except for background jokes? But I guess that works.
I mean, isn't that just like what Big has become in the Sonic franchise as a whole? What is he here for other than background jokes?
You're right. I mean, Frontiers literally, opens with Sonic saying, Big, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm just hanging out, man.
Speaking of Big, I think it was either this episode or the next episode, but there's like a scene where the not Sonic characters are surrounded by some robots, and then all of a sudden all of them fight back except for Big, but then Froggy gets in and just like wrecks one of the robots. I'm like, dang, Froggy hard.
Oh, yeah.
Froggy's got some bloodlust.
I thought there's even a pirate Froggy in this next episode as they're chasing Sonic after, believing he's abandoned them. Catfish is like hesitant to get on the lasers on the ship they've stole. Right. And then Froggy hops off his head and just starts smashing the trigger with his big, back leg. That was pretty good.
Froggy's a real MVP.
he tasted
I think that kind of brings us to episode 4, No Way Out, as they call it.
Spider-Man?
That's yeah. I mean, if you think about it, multiverse stuff. Anyway, yeah, this is like. It's worth like acknowledging the brief cutaway back to Up in the Void, where Shadow is like just griefing them in the distance, just messing around with the Chaos Council.
Yeah, it's good that they're actually using him for stuff now that they've introduced him into the main story.
Yeah,
I also
it's nice that he has to do things.
I also really appreciate that like they're really using his rocket boots, like for more functionality, than just helping him run.
Yeah. Air shoes.
Oh, I'm sorry, air shoes, yes.
No, it is cool. Like, especially he uses them to get around the void, whereas like Sonic had to like hop from rock to rock, and it's really clever. And this is a really nice scene. I do, if I can say something nice about the council, I do at least appreciate that Dr. Don't has like a unique thing where he uses his like VR goggles to tap into individual robots to control one directly. Like that's cool. Like, that's much better than Babel and Dr. Deep just having, like, they have big mechs. Like, okay, yeah, that's whatever.
Who doesn't at this point?
Yeah. I did take a note that Dr. Don't speaks in Leet speak that is, I'm pretty sure, older than I am. So, for the love of God, let's move on to something else. What was the other? I think in another episode, he does a hashtag joke, which is, I think it's okay to just retire that one from all writing in any medium forever.
I agree.
It wasn't funny when Salmonella did it in Ace Attorney like 20 years ago, and it's not funny now.
Oof.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's been that long. I should not have to keep hearing that.
I mean, I just recently watched Transformers Animated, and there was a character who did a Leet joke, because he's an internet person.
Oh, yeah, Headmaster.
Yes, I am So late!
Yeah? Well, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
But, like, that was of that time, certainly not the 2020s.
I think, yes, it is just moved past, like, you can't even do it, ironically. Before I forget, I want to do a special shout out to Digimon11 on Twitter for saying what everyone else was too cowardly to say, which is that the Deadly Six are better than the Chaos Council.
Strong words.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. They are, like, all a bunch of stereotypical little villains that you've seen, like, in a million things, and their designs aren't very good, and they still have more purpose to them than the Chaos Council, because we know what their deal is. We know where they came from. And they're not and they're not just a bunch of jokes about, you know, this generation and that generation.
And if I had to bet money on it, the Deadly Six got to show up in the comics and get like several really fun arcs. I love Zavok's part in the Bad Guys miniseries, where he basically tells Dr. Starline that like I've got you figured out like to the letter. But just to let you know, I'm going to follow you and see where you go with this. And it's just a really good moment for this like nothing character, like you said. I bet my bottom dollar the Chaos Council never shows up again after these episodes are done. Which
there's not going to be fan demand for these guys. Like, okay, it's worth acknowledging there have at least been one or two posts on Twitter from people who are, God bless them, trying to make out that these characters have some worth and meaning to them. I saw someone try to, like, I was like, no, each of these doctors represent an aspect of Eggman's personality. I swear he does. And I'm like, you know what? You're giving the writers way too much credit, but bless you for trying to find something with this cast of jokers.
Also, no offense to that person, because they didn't do anything wrong. That is also
absolutely not. I don't blame people for trying to find meaning in something that has no meaning. That's life.
that is also like the go-to, like, oh, what if this, you know, children's thing was very deep and actually represented like different personality disorders, like the old, like, hey, what if
Winnie the Pooh? Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say the one I remember was Rugrats. That Angelica's like in an insane asylum, and like each of the babies that she hates is like parts of her messed up personality. And like, yeah, that's been around, that interpretation.
Ed and Eddie.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Ed and Eddie one.
Yeah.
No, they're just a bunch of funny cartoon guys.
Yeah.
When will we pass on to the next round, Double D?
Well, we have to have our souls judged against our sins, Ed.
Dorks.
That's Eddie. Oh, that's
Eddie's stealing the quarters out of the River Styx's the ferryman's back pocket.
The ferryman is just Plank.
Yeehaw! God, okay, we got to get back on track here. Oh yes, we talked about, Shadow's trying to slow down the council in the void. 9 finally gets caught. But again, only because the only smart Eggman, Mr. Doctor, like, catches him, and because he's not a complete doofus. Sonic does recover the shard. He kind of starts convincing the pirates that he didn't abandon them, and then, like, cements it in their mind because he tosses the shard away to, like, save their lives from the doctors. The council does recover it, and Sonic chases them off again. Knuckles the Dread stows away on their mothership. There's some really good, this one's kind of hard to talk about because there's really good fights, and again, like we said, really great choreography. Just not a lot of story happens, which is totally fine. It's just it makes watching the show much better, and not, you know, listening to us us jabronis like recount it for you. Because it is really, like we said, it's a very good kids action show. Like this stuff was obviously really planned out.
Yeah, there's some good bits in general too. Like, I think there's a moment where Rusty is like, "Let me go down with the ship. I am expendable," and Black Rose and me like, "Well, I'm not."
Yeah. Yeah, there are some really good dialogue moments where like Rusty she has betrayed the council, but is still like operating like she's like how she was treated under them. And the other characters are like, that's not what being a friend or a crewmate is. So knock it off, girl. We love you now.
You're part of our Nakama now.
God.
Oh, we said that last time, didn't we?
Probably.
It's still
Might
funny.
have.
Still
I mean,
funny.
this place is called No Place. It's got the same cadence and almost exactly.
Yeah.
No place. I can make it work.
Come
Yeah.
aboard, bring along all your shards and whatever.
Speaking of Netflix, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Hey, by the time this episode comes out, that's going to be out. Let's
Yep.
hope it's watchable.
it was either really bad or kind of good with no in between. I stand by those words, the One Piece thing.
You cannot have middle ground on this topic.
It's true.
There can't be nuanced opinions about this.
Okay, back to Sonic Prime. We're now at episode 5. Did we say we said the title of episode 4. Episode 5, A Madness to Their Methods. See, it's reversed. That's not how you usually say that. Did we mention that the first episode is referencing the Noid, the extinct Domino's mascot?
I think he came back.
Oh, I mean, it's there.
Yeah, I mean, okay, sorry. It makes a lot of these, and there are many different writers. I recognize a couple names. I think Meriwether Williams wrote a couple of these.
Yeah, I think a couple.
Yeah, and they're like a cartoon veteran, like been around for years and years. I remember they did some of my favorite episodes of like the original run of Friendship is Magic back in the day. But titles like that and some of the jokes from the council really does, like, I know exactly how old these writers are. And I'm not making a moral judgment. I'm just saying I know.
Yeah.
So the council goes back to New York to take their 3 power shards to like supercharge their robots and try and
The Rebellion are like at the time, the Rebellion are celebrating their victory for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they're back.
I mean, you didn't defeat them, guys. They just left. Like,
But also remember that like the amount of time that passes differs between dimensions. So
True.
for all they know, they've been gone for, months or whatever.
could be.
It's time to
could be.
clean up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, who am I to judge? I'm looking around at my flat.
This is where I noticed, like, I watch these with the subtitles just to help taking notes.
Yeah.
Dr. Babel gets subtitles now? Like, we get to know what this
sometimes.
stupid...
Periodically.
Yeah. When they feel like it. I don't
It's
get
weird.
it. It's
Like when I say he gets subtitles, we don't mean it's like the usual way. It says babbles incoherently. They'll actually transcribe his dialogue into English.
Dude, I missed that.
But not like with any real consistency. That's the thing.
No,
In fact, I would say the funnier joke is when he says like a 5-second string of babble and some other character turns to him and says, "You know what? You're right. Let's do that."
that's funnier.
Yeah.
Yes, that like they should just keep doing that. But no, they subtitle it to let us know, but it's very confusing.
Man, what I wanted from the show is to hear what the baby was thinking. Thanks, Netflix.
That made everything better.
Yeah, Sonic meets back up with Rebel Rouge and Nux, who are, like you said, they were excited about potentially rebuilding the city, replanting the trees, etc. But now, Sonic kind of fills them in. They need to get the shards, and he needs to rescue Nine. And even then, like, they are very much like, that kid, the one that betrayed us? And he's like, no, you don't understand. He's a good guy now. He's my best friend. And I'm kind of realizing there is a little bit of undercurrent, and it does like fully blossom in the last episode. Mm-hmm. Sonic genuinely believes that he is Nine's friend, but there is an undercurrent of, because I'm his friend, he's going to be a good guy now. Like, he is still projecting onto Nine as if he's Tails. Like, all Nine needs is
That's
me,
it, though, isn't it?
Sonic, the greatest guy in the world. And, he's not saying that out loud, but it's subtly inferred. He doesn't really understand that what he is saying and assuming could be harmful.
he assumes that Nine is going to be his friend because he's cool and he's Sonic, and he also assumes that Nine is going to be a friend because he's Tails. Like, at least that's it, because Tails is always his friend. Tails always goes along with Sonic, always literally follows along. So, like, whether Sonic knows it or not, and I don't know that he does, it's there, and we're going to get to that.
And I feel like, Shadow points that is part of what Shadow was trying to tell Sonic, but again, because he's Shadow, he delivered it in the most blunt and a cool thing, like, whether Shadow realizes it or not, the most, like, edgy and negative way possible.
Shadow is like a parent advising their kid who is online, being like, they just say it in the worst possible way, watch out for yourself. Yeah. Because he's saying, look, they're not, you just met them online, they're not real. They are real, Dad!
Yeah.
So it doesn't help.
This is where, yes, we said Mr. Dr. Eggman has caught Nine, like, attempting all of his subterfuge with their systems, and is, like, kind of putting the screws to him about, like, how are we going to defeat Sonic? Our robots, it seems like even if we power them up, he manages to defeat them. And Nine, he, again, gets sassy to him and says, like, you know what? You can't beat Sonic because he's too fast, and he's too powerful, and he's too cool, and you're a bunch of lamos.
It's pretty great, actually, because he's like, how do we beat Sonic? I'm not telling you, Jack. Look, Sonic, if you wanted to beat Sonic, you'd have to think like him, and I don't think you could. And
I think this might have gotten slightly spoiled in a trailer, but I mean...
Yeah, they straight up showed it.
Yeah, okay. He goes off and builds a Metal Sonic, and a Metal Sonic. I think, by the end of this one is where they reveal his proper name, which is Chaos Sonic, which he doesn't actually say anything until the next episode, so we'll finish this one off. This is where I kind of realized that Rouge, even in her role in this world, is like, I think in the last time we said, oh, she's the leader, she's the Sally Acorn. She just unfortunately still seems to be around just to, like, fill other characters in or remind the audience like what's going on. And like I said, with these episodes, I kind of let go of that. I would have loved like a Rouge centric episode that actually like delved into her characters like the other one, but it is what it is.
It is worth noting that during this episode, they make the egg forces bigger.
Yes.
I don't know why that's the one bit that actually makes me laugh is that they were like, oh, we're going to use prism power to change the egg forces to make them more powerful. And like, I think was it Dr. Dunnett? It was just like, make them big!
Yeah.
And you're big!
Which again was like, such a contrast with Mr. Dr. Eggman, who is getting like information from Nine, and I'm like, yeah, he's the smart one because he's Eggman, and all these other jobbers like aren't.
Far as we know.
Yeah, man, y'all have ruined my vocabulary with the wrestling stuff. So yeah, in the next episode, which is Double Trouble, which is very like, I mean, it's on the nose, whatever. But yeah, here's Chaos Sonic. And here was where, this is the only time where I saw like the reaction online to these episodes, where I saw people, and I'm sorry, I have to say, I know people like a decade younger than me being like, oh man, Chaos Sonic was so lame. I hate that he talked. Why can't a Metal Sonic be cool? And I'm like, man, none of y'all read the Archie comics when Shard was around, or even the original, their original version of Metal Sonic, who was like cracking up a storm.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that this isn't Metal Sonic. It's a Sonic robot. He's Chaos Sonic.
It's a Chaos Council Metal Sonic, so of course it's going to be different. Yeah, aside from like the general silhouette of his head, this is like a way different Metal Sonic. This is like, he's more of a Metal Sonic. You know, because they said the whole thing is he needs to think like Sonic, so they're like, okay, make him as annoying as possible. Got it.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I love that Sonic acknowledges that, like, he is like a motor mouth, and I love Devin Mack's performance as both Sonic and Chaos Sonic in this, and I think he
confirmed it.
Yeah. Okay, did he say for sure? I know he said. I wanted to. Okay, I wanted.
It was his decision to make him sound as quote unquote 90s as possible, and there was another voice actor during the 90s, and we all know him. And
yes,
that's right, the guy from the Sonic OVA. That's who he was. Referencing.
Got any cheese?
Oh man, I really enjoyed Chaos Sonic. He's only around for this episode. He gets blown the fuck up at the end of it. So even if you didn't like him, it's like, well, he's dead. He might get an action figure. But I really like it. It's a different but positive spin for me on a Metal Sonic. Like, this is Sonic's Prime's version of it. And I tell you what, like, Metal Sonic, and again, maybe I'm just the old man yelling at Cloud, it sure seems like similar to Shadow that a big swath of the fandom doesn't actually know what they want from Metal Sonic.
No.
Because when you go into like the discussion of like, oh, I hated Chaos Sonic because he wasn't like a threat like Metal Sonic, and like, oh
he
yeah.
is.
And I'm going to be like, oh yeah, like he was in Sonic Heroes. No, that one sucks too because he talks and it's, big lame, he's so lame. I'm like, okay, so like in the IDW comics? No, because Sonic beats him every time and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? And I saw some people were like, I just wanted to be like the Sonic OVA. And I'm like, I don't see the difference. Like, the whole point of the Metal Sonic and the OVA was Sonic had to learn how to fight him. And if you want Metal Sonic to show up again, like, Sonic knows how to fight him. So,
speaking of the Sonic OVA, like, I know you're getting on a point about how Sonic fans don't know what they want, and we know that. That's half of this podcast. But, like, why I like it is because this reminds me of the OVA, and that this is actually, like, in a way that the OVA wasn't. This is absolutely a Metal Sonic that feels like it's got Sonic's personality, that feels like a match to Sonic for once. Now, if you're annoyed by that, that's fine. Even Sonic's annoyed by it.
Have I told you my 3-step plan yet? Oh, you're gonna love it. Hey! Step 1, beat it to a pulp, obviously. Step 2, a rebrand. This guy just won't stop talking.
It's fine. It's cool to see that for once, because this guy doesn't, like, zoom around on a rocket. He's running like Sonic using his actual legs.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with this guy.
So all that to say, I liked Chaos Sonic fine. He was pretty funny. I like that Sonic, I think Sonic literally says at some time, like, is that what I sound like to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna have to make some changes.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they do, like, give him a different name and a different design does help a lot to further differentiate him from the other Metal Sonic and Sonic robots that have come before. Like, he's not Metal Sonic, he's not Mecha Sonic, he's not Metallics, he's not any of these guys, and it allows him to stand on his own, separate from any of these other robot doppelgangers.
Also, fun little fact, someone pointed this out on Twitter, and I was like, oh man, really? Because, Devin Mack was clearly referencing Jaleel White's performance as Sonic, and it's great, I love it, it's really cool. One of the things he does is when he's attacking Sonic and throwing fists and kicks and stuff, he does, like, those little, like, kung fu noises that Sonic would make in Sat AM when he was, like, zipping around the place.
Yeah.
So,
cool, that's cool.
He also gets in a "you're too slow" with the exact cadence.
Yeah.
That even said, yeah, no, that has been burned into my brain for 15 years or whatever. I had to.
Yep. That is stuff where we do have to acknowledge, like, yes, there are lots of people making this show who are obviously Sonic fans themselves, like, and that, like you said, that stuff just shines out in a positive way. I think, the other big thing that happens at the end of this episode, besides Chaos Sonic getting obliterated, is the Council decides to permanently open doors to the other Shatterverse worlds, and that causes the entire multiverse or whatever to become unstable. And 9 gets real serious about it, like, no, you don't understand, this could destroy all of us.
And they're just like, oh yeah, Project Fear, like, what's the worst that could happen?
I do want to point out that my first, like, audible big laugh was when Knuckles the Dread, like, falls off the Council's ship and ends up getting saved by Sonic and lands on the roof, and then gets to meet Nux and Prim.
Shiver me timbers, ye be me. Are you making fun of me?
Oh man,
ye be me.
One thing about this episode there was actually a moment that I thought was almost funny with the baby, and that is when they're all drinking together, all the Chaos Council. The baby's got a little thing of milk, and once he pulls the cup down of milk, he's got a little milk mustache like an Eggman.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah,
there you go.
the Kickman. Yeah, that's fine.
That's the only time I'm going to compliment something regarding the baby.
Baby.
It's a baby.
It's all right. We're in the home stretch. We're now at episode 7, Cracking Down.
Just after 9 did a big apology, like, oh man, sorry about that. And Sonic's like, yeah, whatevs. It's cool.
Talking about how he, took the shard originally, went to the Grim, kind of betrayed the rebellion, who, they weren't exactly working together, but it was still pretty shitty 9, and he acknowledged it. He's glad to see Sonic again. And again, you think like, okay, yeah, these guys they're buddies. They're gonna watch out for each other. We'll see. Yeah, this is 9 after Sonic kind of relays like everything he saw in Ghost Hill with Shadow, like it clicks in 9's head that the key to restoring the prism is to take them back there and to, fit them back into their original shape. This episode, I remember sticking out that Sonic seemed a little too high energy. I'd have to watch it again, but I guess it doesn't really matter. This is also where they make it back to Ghost Hill, and 9 starts to like saying like, okay, I can do this. I can fit these shards back together. It's going to be incredibly difficult. And he like says very nicely, like, I kind of need you to give me some space, Sonic. And this is where we get another really good conversation between Sonic and Shadow, to where they're not punching each other. They are literally just standing next to each other talking. And it's really solid, where again, Shadow is saying like, you sure you can trust that kid? Like, he literally did betray you before. And also, again, he's not your Tails.
Yeah.
And Sonic comes back at him again with another, really good point. It's like, yeah, but he is a Tails, and Tails is my friend, and 9 is my friend now, and everything is going to work out fine, Shadow.
How do you know you can trust him? Trust is an issue for you, Shadow. That's why you don't have any friends.
I don't think your friend wants the same thing we do.
I thought you were going to say, like, Sonic comes back a real big point. Oh, Shadow, you don't have any friends. He
does say something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah, this is why you don't have friends. It's like, well, not anymore, thanks, Sega.
Yeah. I reject that reality and substitute my own, where Omega, Rouge, and Shadow are all living in an apartment, and they're all being funny together.
You have to make your own shatter space where that's a thing anymore.
Yeah. We also, in this episode, on the way to getting to Ghost Hill, we travel through, I don't think we travel through the No Place, but we do go through Boscage for sure. And
we do go to No Place, I think. Yeah, back in because I've got it on my notes here. They go through No Place. Oh, this is where they've been, like, raising up, like, buildings and stuff. Like, they've been making new yokes out of everywhere else. And so, like, your buildings coming up out of the water, which makes me think, Jesus Christ, there's supposed to be some really big buildings. They're probably coming up from the bottom of the ocean. Although we have established in, like, the No Place episodes that, this is a flooded world, because we saw the loop-de-loop under the water when they're in submarine mode, so...
Welcome to Rapture.
I thought, oh, God. Yeah, see, we did that joke already. I thought, because is this also where we get, is it 9 and Sails also, like, get to see each other briefly and just kind of wave?
9 and Sails. 9 and Mangy too from Boscage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mangy Tails doesn't get a lot to do. He does make some cute funny noises again. I just couldn't help, like, both of those voice actresses just nailed that. Like, oh man, it's Tails and he's making cute puppy noises.
Yeah, but imagine what it's like for 9 looking at that. It's like, oh Jesus Christ, what happened to me in this world?
and then in Boscage we also get, I think for just a little bit, we get all three of the Amy's so far meeting with each other.
Yeah, Black and Rusty see Thorn passing, and then they have that moment of like, what?
There's more.
They're like, wow, goals.
Yeah. I do feel like Boscage kind of isn't getting as represented as some of the others, but I think that might just be because the others have had characters from those worlds jumping into the other ones, and Boscage and its cast have stayed relatively isolated the whole time, whereas, you know...
I mean, who wants to go to Boscage, really?
Yeah, it's like New York is constantly moving into other zones between 9 and the Council, and Dread's, you know, jumping between zones as well, so it's like... I don't know. I kind of wish that there had been a little bit more for at least Thorn, if not the whole Boscage cast to do.
I think, to be fair, Boscage, out of at least the first season, had, not in a bad way, but like the heaviest like thematic elements, because it had like the actually good environmentalism subtext in there, but it also had like like rebonding of friendships between Thorn and the rest of the cast, and like we spent a pretty good amount of time in season 1 in Boscage, and with that thematic heaviness in there.
You know, you make a good point about that. Like, Boscage, at least, while it feels really separate, in the way that New York doesn't, it does have that sort of thematic energy, whereas, as we know, No Place is just like, yo, pirates!
Yeah.
We did that last time too.
Boscage kind of just had like its little story arc that got resolved, whereas the other ones kind of didn't. Like you said, New York also is the place where we see the most extras, like other members of the rebellion, just like kind of background Sonic Forces create a character furries. And then No Place didn't really finish because it ended right with, you know, Dread getting his beauty. And Boscage just kind of wrapped up. And I guess if you want to say Boscage still has the cool thing that makes it stand out is the giant birdie. Like the other ones don't have like a giant monster creature as well, so that makes it stand out.
Well, you know, it's appropriate that Boscage wrapped up, but No Place just keeps on going and going and going and going.
I guess that brings us to this last episode, Ghost of a Chance.
Sorry, they can't call it Ghost of a Chance and not have me just imagine little Karibos.
It's not him.
Ooh, I'm a ghost.
Gosh, I haven't thought about that in a while. Thank you.
Yeah, these last 2 episodes, again, reminded me of when Evan Stanley mentioned that Sega basically, like, loosened up how they allow writers to portray Shadow, because that also comes through in this batch of episodes as well. It's like they've kind of finally figured out, like we were saying, like, oh, okay, like, if we let people... like go back to what people remember of Shadow's character without regressing him too much, that it works out fine. And I think that's really strong in this last episode, where you think everything's going to turn out okay, and then 9 basically reveals that, like, he doesn't want to do any of that. Like, he wants to go back to the Grim with the Prism shards now that he knows how to put them together, and is like, I still want to make my own world, the one that I never had and needed, and I'm not your Tails, Sonic. Like, quit putting that on me.
Yeah.
We're not remaking your old world. We're building a better one. The perfect world in Grimm. Our clean slate.
Why does the slate have to be clean? I liked the old slate. It was our home.
It was never my home. Plus, it's gone.
I think you can get it back.
You're wrong about that. We need to build a new home.
Come on, little buddy.
Stop calling me that! You just assumed I'd go along with you no matter what. Did you even consider what I wanted?
I assumed that after everything we've been through, you'd see things the way I do. Just like the real Tails would.
I am real!
It's really complex and strong, and it feels like this whole series of 24 episodes, it feels like the culmination is going to be the Sonic and 9 story.
And they're the most interesting, like, that's the most interesting dynamic here, I think.
Yeah.
Is this sort of like, because it's taken from the games, is the idea of what if Tails didn't have Sonic? We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
That's why I think, even though 9 is his own little edgy boy, with his 9-inch nails top and everything, like, the idea of a Tails who got bullied and didn't have someone there for him being his canon event, if you will, for what led him to become 9, that's cool to Sonic fans, because it's something we haven't really acknowledged a whole lot. It's like, what is Tails without Sonic? Yeah. Actually, STC did do that, and apparently, according to if Sonic wasn't around, so Tails would have drowned, apparently. But that's a whole other story for another day. But yeah, like, that's why I like this. And also, Sonic did actually say at one point, no, you don't understand. The real Tails would. And, like, Nine is like, I am real. Yes. And it's like, Sonic's like, oh, fuck. Okay, that's on me.
Yeah, that just kind of solidified the Sonic is not meaning to treat Nine that way. He just he doesn't understand because again, the only person telling him that he is wrong is Shadow, and he is want to ever take Shadow seriously because he just thinks he's jealous. I think he even says that in the first one. He after he rescues him, it's like, and I bet it's eating you up on the inside. It's like, yeah, you're right, Sonic. It is. Shadow is correct in this exact, in this very particular instance. And it just comes across really well. It's another, like we already brought up, there was some really solid writing in the Boscage, the original Boscage episodes, talking about like the relationship between friends and how things can be miscommunicated with even people you think you're very close to, and that can kind of poison your relationships if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of like the story like behind this. The only downside is like, and that this is the thing that I've been kind of sitting on, is Sonic feels like he has regressed a lot in this show, like compared to some of it. And I'm not even saying compared to Frontiers, like even to other Sonic games. Sonic is coded very young in this. He's like somewhere between like Lost World and Colors Sonic and like movie Sonic. And sometimes it can be a bit grating.
Yeah, it is so interesting. Movie Sonic is so much more easy to accept because that is a completely separate continuity where we've said in our discussion about those movies, they are Sonic enough, but that is also, like you said, he is coded very young in those movies. And yeah, I was kind of hoping after the first batch of episodes, we did move away from Sonic going to a new universe and go, what's going on? I don't get it. Will someone please explain it again? And they didn't do that in this one, but it crops up in other areas to where like you said, it's just a little too much naivete, I guess. Like, I mean, you said like Colors in Lost World, like the biggest problems with those is Sonic is a little too callous. Like I like the back and forth he has with Tails and Colors, where they're kind of like little, brothers like elbowing each other. But this one, I don't know. Like, I agree with you that I wish they would have just turned it down a few notches, and made it not so obvious, I guess, because I think the writing is stronger than that. Like, I just got done complimenting like how subtle it was about like friendships and accidentally hurting your friend's feelings. And sometimes it seems like Sonic is still just kind of stupid. And
yeah, that's the problem.
That's not necessarily out of character for Sonic, but you have to have a balance.
There's definitely a difference between like this Sonic and say like IDW Sonic who's happening right now, who's still, still makes lots of mistakes, still is a bit naive. And this one, he's just a bit of a dumbass sometimes. So you can have differences in character, but it just gets a little bit grating sometimes.
One of the things I remember mentioning in the last episode where we talked about the first season was I think personally one of the moral themes that they're weaving through all these episodes is Sonic's need to think through his actions more. In the first season, it seems like it was like a very much a physical needing to think through it because his physical actions are what caused the whole Shadow Space thing to happen in the first place. But now in this season, especially in these last couple episodes, it's more his emotional actions of correlating Nine to Tails, and not thinking through that enough are causing that. And I'm interested in, I mean, if they're keeping it up, 2 out of 3 parts of this series, I'm definitely interested to see how that ends up in the third part, because I really do see this. Yeah, like I do agree. He's being too naive at some points, and it's like he's realizing his mistakes, but he's still making those mistakes at the same time. And I'm hoping that this leads to honestly like a really good redemptive finish of the entire series for Sonic.
Well, what's actually going to happen is in the next batch of episodes is after making like physical mistakes and emotional mistakes, next time he's going to make a bunch of spiritual mistakes. Fall out of faith with his creator and everything. It's going to be very sad.
I'm sorry, Father Naka.
Wow. The fallen angels.
We completely glossed over the fact that not supersonic fights a not Titan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's only lame in the fact that the preview image on Netflix is the Prism Eggman Titan, but there's no sense of scale. So I thought, oh man, it's Prime Eggman. He's finally showed up. And then what the council does is use their stored prism power to make a huge giant Dr. Eggman.
The pinnacle of all creation, apparently. So is it because he's the original before the Shatter Spaces?
Yeah.
Is he their god?
That's what I'm saying is why does it look like the real Dr. Eggman, but he hasn't shown up at all? And I do want to say before I forget, I really like Brian Drummond's Eggman in this, specifically Mr. Doctor, because his cadence reminds me of the red guy from Cow and Chicken.
Oh yeah,
Starts slow,
Yeah.
and then gets really yell. It's very funny. I think we said before, like Brian Drummond's take is like, it is recognizably an Eggman voice, but he puts his own spin on it.
Yeah, it really feels like a blend. I know I said this last time, but it really does feel like the perfect blend of like Mike and Jim Carrey.
Yeah. With a little bit of deep, raspy Dean Bristow in there even.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they make this giant Eggman, and he's stomping towards the cave with the prism shards, and Sonic and Shadow try and hold him off, and Shadow gets his shit wrecked, and Sonic asks Nine, like, I've seen you do it before with the shards, you gotta give me a boost, and Nine is saying, like, well, I will definitely kill you, but I'll give it a shot.
And this is after already receiving a boost for the first time.
Double boost!
Yeah, there's two boosts. There's the first one, like before, like even Operation Big Boy Pants, as they call it, the giant Titan Eggman shows up, and so he gets like a little boost that gives him like after images, I guess, like hypersonic, but he's just regular Sonic, and he can talk, and he can talk to his after images. And just after Sonic had a moment in like the Chaos Sonic episode of being like, oh man, if I'm this annoying, I really need to like reevaluate my choices. And there he is again, being an unbearable little prick to himself.
He becomes more like Chaos Sonic.
Yeah.
It kind of made me wish that Shadow had just been in the Chaos Sonic episode, so we could have gotten those lines back to back.
It's aiming away from us. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe they know when they're beat. These guys, please. If you believe that, then you're even dumber than you look.
Finally, a Sonic I can agree with.
It's really good. Yes. But yeah, he goes back because he's like, that boost wasn't enough. And then we get another boost, and of course it works, and we get the cool, like, zoom in on Sonic's eyes, which I guess is more movie Sonic, because I thought, is he doing Frontiers? But forgetting that Frontiers took that same boost from movie Sonic.
Well, he gets the electrified blue eyes, and he gets pink spikes. No, he doesn't. I was all the time thinking, is it going to be a supersonic? Is it going to be a supersonic? It's not a supersonic. Just pink spike, blue eyes Sonic.
Kind of Ultra Instinct Sonic.
It's semi pseudo supersonic,
Oh, that again. I mean, it is like that end of that season of Sonic X when you put it like that.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't remember. Does he zip inside the big Titan's mouth?
He vores.
Oh yeah, he absolutely does.
Yeah. Okay.
Self-vores.
Yeah. It's just prism energy. It's not. He doesn't burst.
He's not actually getting up in his guts and.
It looks pretty cool. It is a little bit of I don't know. It's just the giant Eggman thing threw me for such a loop that it distracted me from how cool it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because
there is something both kind of silly and yet at the same time kind of creepy about how Titan Eggman like slowly opens his mouth, and like it's funny while he's doing it, but then when he charges up a beam, it's just like there's actually something kind of scary about this. Just like
well, he doesn't talk or anything.
Yeah, he
like
doesn't
that.
talk. So
it's just his
I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, it's just because that movie rules so hard and nobody will ever do a breath laser attack better again. But like Shin Godzilla, like,
Yeah.
that's what it reminded me of. And I'm like, no, that's an easy, this scene will be cool if you're going to do a giant kaiju with a breath attack, like make it look like the Shin Godzilla one.
Yep.
But he's no Supreme High Robotnik.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking about that.
Too many pairs of pants on him. So yeah, we kind of got into like, oh yay, we do, we push the council back in time for 9 to finish, and then yeah, he tells Sonic like, I never said I was gonna help you, and blah 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 and all that. We kind of already hashed that out, and it's really solid, and I hope it has a good conclusion. Yeah, just to, kind of go over it. Like, I feel like every character, like Bar talked about, like Rouge and Big kind of get left in the back, and it's more of a shame for Rouge than Big. Like we talked about, Big has funny moments, but yeah, all the other characters like get much more fleshed out. Like it's so cool to see what started as it's Amy Rose but a pirate, like actually get like more to her character, and as she's interacting like with her other versions. And that's really nice. Like I said, the writing is both really solid for these characters and is only held back like a couple of really lame jokes, usually spoken by the Chaos Council, or like I said, sometimes like it goes back to like, if this existed in a vacuum and we didn't have like the Sonic movie, we didn't have Frontiers, and especially like Frontier Story, we didn't have a lot of the IDW comics finishing up like really solid, like mature storylines. And the maturity in IDW Sonic especially comes from like they are, and Frontiers for that matter, taking into account like all of Sonic's history. Like I don't feel like I would be as dogged on Sonic's silly moments in this show if, again, all that other really good stuff wasn't out there, because this show is supposed to not contradict and be canon with that. And I'm like, I guess Sonic was just having a goofball stupid day in this episode of Sonic Prime. I mean, yes, I do constantly, but
this is the thing, like, we said it like we did say last time, like, yeah, because we Sonic fans have seen how good Sonic can be, we don't look at this like as the best possible thing, even though there are people who aren't big Sonic fans who are going into this being like, actually, this is really good, I like this. And the most recent, this is going to date the recording a little bit, but the most recent example of that sort of like, it's not a perfect comparison, but the Barbie movie just came out, and it's, I'm going to tell you, it's effing great. I love that movie. It makes lots of incels mad. It's a great time. But here's the thing. When that came out and lots of people were lauding it for its creativity and great it is, there was a subset of Barbie fans who were like big on Life in the Dreamhouse who were like saying, oh, but it's not as good as that. That's where the real good Barbie writing is. That has a really good Ken in it, not this Ryan Gosling mother. So I'm not saying it's a one-to-one comparison, but that kind of gives us a bit more context for maybe we're being big nerds about this perfectly competent show.
Oh yeah. But that's part of the fun.
And I still agree with our consensus last time that this is a very good show for its demographic. Like if I knew if somebody asked me like, oh, my kid's starting to get into Sonic, what else should they? I would say this show's on Netflix. It's really good. Give it a watch. And yeah, I have similar feelings with the Barbie comparison. Like again, I've talked about this. Anytime someone much younger than me talks about how their favorite Sonic is the Sonic X English dub Sonic or the Sonic Unleashed Sonic, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's just not how I see it. And I have to remember that it takes all kinds in a fandom as large and diverse as the Sonic the Hedgehog fandom, even if some of those people are definitely wrong. But that's fine. It's okay.
But this has been a good batch, I think. Like, it's funny that this batch is obviously, like, they're reusing assets a lot. There's only one new character in this. But as a result of the limitations, they're able to tell better stories. And this book ends well. The first episode... Like, as much as these feel like a random bunch of episodes, I feel like the first episode of this one and the last episode of this one sort of, like, yeah, they bookend, they link up. Starting with the Ghost Hill and stuff and, like, questioning, like, 9. It's good. It's a nice little batch. I just wish they did it as a proper season.
Yeah. And it's more, I feel like I've stated a lot of negative things, but I want to be clear that, like, my feelings on the show as a whole haven't changed. I still think it's really solid. I'm really enjoying watching it and getting to hear this new cast, and also, like, flipping it over to Japanese and hearing that cast as well. It's still really funny in parts, and I basically just accepted that, like, I don't like the Chaos Council, but they're not going anywhere, so I'm just accepting that they are part of this show to the end, and I at least, I'm just hoping the conclusion is satisfying. I hope it retains this, like we said, this perfectly action-packed, great for kids, but the underlying tone of, like, maturity and not teaching is just like a friendship lesson. It's much more complicated than that, and it really shines out in good ways.
Plus, they're selling lots of toys. In my local shop, in the Sonic section, I'm just going to show you the Sonic section, because there's a lot of toys from Prime there. You can see, like, there's a lot of regular Sonic toys, but there's also plenty of Prime. There's also an Infinite there. That was weird. But you can see, like, the little Angel's Voyage pirate ship. Like, they're making the most out of these and getting as many toys as they can. I got one of those little blind bag things, and I got a 9. Now, of course, this happens with various other Sonic sub-franchises. Remember Boom? So I don't think this is going to be, like, a sign that they're dedicated to Sonic Prime, but they're making the most out of it, and I feel like kids are going to go into stores and be like, hey, that's from the show that you put on when I was misbehaving and I wouldn't shut up. So, and now I remember that, and now I want that, because that's what Netflix is for, to shut your kids up, apparently.
It's hard not to go back to what we discussed, how Sega commented on Sonic Prime in the first episode, where, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically said, like, Sonic Prime is a great example of something that is bringing new eyeballs to the Sonic franchise, and we're very excited about that. And I think they also talked about how they don't care about if it makes any money as far as that goes, because they'll have this line of toys. People will go from Sonic Prime to playing the mobile game to then probably playing other Sonic games, which is why I have to reiterate that after this last batch of 8 episodes comes out and we've got the full 24, I don't think we're going to get a second season of Sonic Prime.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, like, this is a perfectly good show. It's fine for what it is for a young kid's show. There's just part of me that's like, yeah, you could do this, but you could also give us basically IDW, the cartoon, and I'd be much happier with that.
Yeah.
But that's just what I want, and that's probably not what's going to make money, so fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But again, maybe they don't care about that. I don't know. I don't know where we're at right now. I guess this is their way of having, like, something that's existing in its own little bubble, is by doing all these alternate worlds. And, it's perfectly fine, but I want more. Not more of this specifically, but just more in general.
Yeah, it is a weird thing that just kind of brings me back to reality, to remember that, Sega's a business, like, above all else, and, like, anytime we sit down and say, why would they make this ridiculous decision that usually involves, like, some kind of creative liberty with a Sonic character or whatever, and the answer is, well, they're making the business decision. Like,
right.
As much as I'm glad that they have kept around, like, Ian and the IDW writers and have brought that crew into the games, making animations and contributing to them directly, like, there is a small part of me that is like, that could go away at any time if Sega just decided, like, we don't need you guys anymore. And I don't mean to be pessimistic. I'm just kind of remembering that, like, the next time I throw my hands up and say, what are you doing? It's all relative, man.
But this isn't bad.
No.
Like, I want you to understand, this batch was really good, and I think the show is coming into its own, and I had fun watching it with Jackie again. We didn't binge it all at once, because we can't do that anymore. We can't. But, sorry, Netflix, I know that's how you need to determine whether or not a show lives or dies, apparently, but I can't. But yeah, I like Sonic Prime.
Yep.
If you want to keep seeing how things go to the end for this last batch, then I'd say that's the mark of a good show.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Yep. I'm 100% agree.
So are we at the point where we can speculate about what's going to come in season 3?
Well, we can't say Cowboys now, because I think we've established they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Unless.
I have
Final episode.
I have a couple of theories I'd like to to throw your way.
Please.
Okay, Wild Mad is guessing. Here we go.
So regarding Cowboys,
Oh, cool.
the slimmest possible chance that maybe it could happen, because of the fact that not Tails 9 mentions that keeping those portals open causes disruptions in basically the fabric of reality. There's, and also we get to see during a flashback with 9 in the Grim, like he turns a rock into a coconut. Very well could have a moment where like you get the perfect mesh of like chaos energy all exploding at the right way. I guess its own little big bang or something like that. And hey, maybe we get a cowboy world for like 2 minutes on screen.
Maybe. If they've got the models, they can afford it.
But
I was going to say, I even wonder, like, the fact that they showed that, that the council kind of creates, I don't want to say matter out of nothing. That sounds too technical.
Alchemy.
But, they start springing up. Yeah, they start alchemy, like, springing up buildings and other realities. And yes, like you said, 9 does manage to, like, use the prism energy and is harnessing it much more carefully. I wonder if it ends up, like, somehow they rescue all of the multiverses, or not multiverses, the other characters, and instead of them getting wiped out when Green Hill is restored, maybe they end up in the Grim, and I don't know, and then they build like their own worlds for themselves, like 9 wanted to do in the beginning.
I do wonder, like, do they need all of the alternate versions in order to reconstitute the originals? Is 9 Tails nobody?
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they'll probably want to end it on like a and everyone lives. Just because, and not that that's hacky, but that's nice. You don't want to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them to try and force in like more existentialism than they need to in this show that is ultimately for children. But
I mean, that's just a resolution. Like, that would feel like a really mean resolution to this, when they've just established that these are all real people.
That's true.
That they are real.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the end of this one, is like, no, I actually exist. I may not be the original, but I am myself. I lived my own life. So they should be allowed to live.
I guess my logic with that ending was like, if the alternative is they all quote unquote die versus get to exist in this like in between universe. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it's all going to end up. I mean,
they're going to make a clone of Sonic that everyone gets their own Sonic to be with, just like the 10th Doctor. One storyline where Rose got her own Doctor at the end, and oh no, that's weird.
Yeah, that would be interesting, because that is also like been the underlying theme, is like, oh, all of these worlds don't have a Sonic. I mean, they also don't have an Eggman, but they haven't done anything with that. So, we'll see. I'm kind of I don't know. I don't know how this is going to end. I hope it's solid.
One thing I do expect is that the void where that Chaos Emerald fell is going to factor into the plot at some point. Like
we forgot
I feel
to
like
mention
they spent too much time setting that up in the Sonic and Shadows discussion that it's not going to come into play at some point.
Right.
Whether that be the Chaos Council gets eliminated by being thrown down the void, or Sonic ends up falling into the void and has to make his way back out, like in Sonic Forces, except actually like with stakes this time.
Yeah. It won't take 15 seconds and cool music can't save
Well, that's because he doesn't have his cool create a character friend there to help him this time.
I was tortured.
Oh man.
I was going to say, he falls into the void, finds the Chaos Emerald, and that ends up being the tide turner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we think Are we going to get a proper Supersonic in this television show?
Probably. Because that always feels like a good conclusion to a Sonic thing. And this isn't like Sat AM where they were like, I don't give a shit about that. I feel like they would.
Yeah, or like
the movie did it. So
yeah. I hope so. I mean, I would, as cool as it would be, I'm not sure if they would go that far. I mean, I would kind of want to see a Super Shadow as well. Maybe they work
Considering
together.
how important he is to the story, even though he hasn't been in it much, bring back Super Shadow. It's been a while. I miss that lad.
I don't think we're getting Super Shadow.
I know, probably not, but I would like it.
I mean, he did... he did use chaos control in that first episode, so like those powers are on the table.
What if we get Supersonic, but we also get like Super Chaos Shadow?
Oh yeah, like a powered up like Prism Energy Shadow.
Yeah,
as well.
like what if like there's some ultimate threat that Supersonic enough is not able to do, and then like maybe Shadow and Nine have like a bonding moment where Shadow has to rely on Nine because Nine can harness the power of the shards and then like give Shadow a boost.
Gosh, not to spoil a very good issue of IDW, but I think it's 61. It's the latest one out right now. But Shadow uses some super cool chaos powers in a way I didn't think was possible, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is why this guy is cool. I'm glad he's still around.
So the other theory I wanted to float, it has to do with the council, and it's not about Dr. Babel being the mastermind behind everything, although I still like that one. So one thing I noticed rewatching a couple episodes was that I think in this last episode, there's a moment where a lot of like a gust of wind comes by and Mr. Dr. Eggman, I feel like it was shown in season 1 that he's wearing a wig. But
yeah, toupee. And this one too.
So this is me just reaching so hard, but hear me out. Because of the fact that like he's wearing a wig, but we get to see, because of the gust of wind, that it is a wig. What if when the shards like exploded out and they made separate versions of all the other characters, they also made separate versions of Eggman, but he gathered them all together and made the Chaos Council and maybe did some mind-bendy stuff to make them all think that they were actually their own people. And then like maybe near the end of the season, it's revealed that Mr. Dr. Eggman is just Dr. Eggman, and he kind of like pulls everybody back into himself. And then that would also maybe kind of explain the whole pinnacle of creation, and it's just regular Dr. Eggman.
Yeah. I don't dislike that. I feel like they should have at least hinted at it, or by this point, or if that is what they do, that it was very much hurt by the fact that these episodes are spaced so far out, because we're just left with like, who are these guys? Are
we going to get to the end of this show not knowing who they are? Because I'm worried about that.
I still say it's Orbot and Cubot.
I'm going to be pessimistic with that and said, yes, we end the show not knowing who they are, where they came from, or why we couldn't get any of Eggman Prime just yucking it up. Because that just seems like the weakest part of the show, unfortunately.
Well, these are interesting theories, and I can't wait for all of them to age just as well as Cowboy Maria Robot for the next time we get I mean, to be fair, we never actually believed that was going to happen. We just wanted it, and we can't get what we want.
Sometimes we get what we need.
We were disappointed by something that we weren't even sure was going to happen.
Adios, Shadow the Hedgehog.
I got shot.
Okay, I think we've covered this batch of episodes of Sonic Prime. It's still pretty positive. I'm very much looking forward to the conclusion.
Yeah, we are positive about it, we're honest.
Yes. No. I feel like there's been several subjects lately where we have to clarify, like, look, I have a lot to say about this, but I do like it.
Yes.
But until that time comes, sometime in the next... who knows? Like we said, 6 to 7, 8 months.
Sometime next year.
But until then, you can find us around the internet. You can follow us now on Twitter and Tumblr and possibly other places. We'll figure it out. Usually
it's a slow rollout.
Yes. It's hard to keep track of. But usually under Sonic F Series is where you can find us. You can also find me on around the internet under the name GameBuddy, sometimes with a 1, 2, 3. And you can still follow me on Twitter at Great Job Jeremy. That's GR and the number 8.
What do we think the chances are that it's going to be Twitter again by the time this episode comes out?
There ain't a force on this earth that can make me refer to it with that other name. God is my
I've
witness.
already made my Kingdom Hearts joke, so I'm going to sit back and just...
Yes.
And as always, you can find me all across the internet as Faulerro. That's Faulerro.
Love that jingle as always. You can find me on the socials at RockTheJake, and you can find me on Twitch as Mr. RockTheJake.
And you can find me on Twitter at CyberLink420.
And as always, and above all, thank you to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. You can check out more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp. And by the time this airs, it will have been out for a while, but Amy has a new album out. You should go listen to it and then go to Bandcamp and buy it.
Yes.
And if it just so happens to be a Bandcamp Friday, buy 2 copies so she gets all that money. Thank you, Amy. And also, please remember to like and share the show. We say it a lot, but those metrics actually do help us grow, and it gets other people to hear the show. And that's all we really want.
And with social media becoming as fractured as it is these days, it helps to, anybody who can actually spread the word around helps us immensely, since we're not going to be able to hit everywhere at this point.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm trying my best. I'm gonna still uploading.
We're doing what we can.
Potentially copyright-stricken videos to Tumblr of all places, just so people can watch them.
Yep.
Oh man! But next time, gosh, we are going to go way back again, back into Sonic's classic past, and we are going to visit Sonic 2, the video game, that one. The one with Tails.
Yeah, we did Sonic 2 already, but that was the movie. Now we're talking about the actual Sonic 2, which should still be the first result in Google and various search engines, but it isn't because of the film. I'm not mad. But
it's why you got to switch to DuckDuckGo.
Exactly.
Yeah. Actually, I've already done that now. But here's the thing, it's November by the time that episode comes out, and that's more or less when Sonic 2 came out, and that's enough to tie it to us doing an episode about it. So we're going back to the classics one more time, talk about what is a great Sonic game, and also the one that gave us Tails, who we talked about in some detail this time, and we get to see the world where Tails was bullied for 5 minutes and then wasn't bullied, and he was fine. He had Sonic. And when Tails, we get to see Tails in his element and being happy and ruining the special stages for anyone who's playing with the two of them. So join us for that one.
Yep. And don't forget, in the 8-bit version, he dies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But until then, I have been and will hopefully continue to be GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro for now until whenever.
Unless I get shattered, I am RockTheJake.
And I'm probably CyberLink. And remember, if you're going to loot a hotel, make sure the guests are loaded first.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been The Hill is Always Greener, and we'll see you on the other side of the Shatterverse.
Oh, just follow the
void. It's gaping.
Oh, don't talk about it being gaping. That's weird.
Yeah. Well, it's...
No, I know.
giant